Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, if it happens to be evening where you're at. My name is Kevin Porman, and with me today I have my colleague Mo. Mo, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Mohit. I go by the name Mo. I'm a developer advocate as a part of the dev relations team here at Salesforce. And last 2 weeks I've been working on Slack, so really excited to have this session and have this live code session with you, Kevin.
No, it's going to be super exciting. Now, before we start, I want to give you a bit of context. Today, for the month of December, basically, Mo and I are going to be working every week to build a travel approval app. And this travel approval app is going to be built using the Bolt SDK. And the Bolt SDK is readily available. You can use it today. It comes in JavaScript, Python, and Java flavors. And it is effectively a way for you to build middleware that interacts between your code and your application or whatever you want to interact with and Slack. Now, Foyer is coming in the bright, shining future, safe harbor. And when Foyer is available, it's going to be a set of tools that helps you rapidly accelerate how you build these integrations if you're integrating with Salesforce. So if you want to do Slack and Salesforce, those two particular things, Foyer is your way to go. And if you're an ISV, it's your only way to go. But we're going to kind of show you the hard way, the absolute worst case scenario for building an application that interacts with both Slack and Salesforce. And we're going to tie those two things together. Now, we have effectively 4 hours to do this over the course of the month. We want to do it live, and that is a tall order. So for the past week or so, Mo and another one of our colleagues have been building we call it a starter kit, but it's more like a beautifully written accelerator script that gets you from 0 to 60. So where you can go from I have nothing to I have something that's integrated with Slack and Salesforce, and I can at least verify that I'm logged in. It doesn't do much more than that, but we've created this, and I want to show you the URL for it. And this is our URL, and this is the starter kit, and we just put out a blog post about it. Now, I want to encourage you to read that blog post and give us some feedback on it. But if you want to get started and follow along with this at home, what we've done so far is to clone this repository into a directory. So we've got this in a directory. I called it Ready to Fly. I'm hopeful here we're gonna call our app Ready to Fly, and all I've done is clone this. I've invited Mo to share in my editor session, and he has access to also write in the terminal. And I'm gonna say, Mo, what are we doing next? How do we start with this?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin, first for having this session. It's going to be so useful. So from here, Kevin, there is a simple script. It's in the scripts folder. Like if you expand the script folder here and actually expand go to the deploy.js,
Yep.
deploy.js. Yeah, you can expand that as well. But deploy.js is what kicks that script. And it's a very, what do you call a very long script, but it's not long here because, actually, it's long here because all of the logic is inside that deploy folder.
Okay.
So it's basically the way we build this is using Node.js.
Okay.
So Node.js is what I'm using to build this whole set of scripts. And what these scripts is going to do for us, it's going to set up a script chart. It's also going to set up a Heroku environment. It's also going to deploy a sample application like the starter kit application, which has code to connect to Salesforce and also use Bolt to authenticate to Slack. So it's going to do a lot of stuff for you. As you said, you'll be through like 60% of your work is done here. And then the only aspect that you focus on is actually building the app. We want to take out the DevOps steps or the manual steps required to build this or get started with building a Slack app, integrated with Salesforce. So it's usually when I start building a Slack app, now that I've built few of the Slack apps, it takes me an hour to figure it out. Okay, what are some of the variables? What are some of the the manual steps I need to do? What are some of the libraries that I need to import. What should my folder structure look like? So it already takes like an hour of work. And what this kit does, it simplifies it. And we will see, shortly that within like 5 to 10 minutes, we should be up and running if everything goes smooth. And then we can go and focus on the hard part, that is, or basically say the core part, which is building application, and forget about all the manual stuff that's required here. So the first step, Kevin, I want to verify is you have what I call it as Node.js installed. It's very important because the whole app is Node.js version. Although I would say both is available in Java or Python if you're a fan of Python or you're familiar with Java and other languages, you can use those two languages as well. But for me, I love Node.js, just because it allows me to write JavaScript.
Now, do we need a particular version of Node.js? Because I have 14.16.0.
Yeah, so that should be fine. Anything above 14 is fine.
Awesome.
For this app. For this application. So once we have this, right? Okay, so first let's actually start by creating an app in the Slack api.slack.com. That's where you go and create an app. So an app in Slack is think of it as defining all metadata for your app there. So you go to your apps, exactly. Go to your apps and click on manage your apps, exactly, and we'll say create a new app. And we'll not start from the scratch because for starting from the scratch, right, you can start from the scratch, but it's a lot of work. So I've already created a manifest file. This is a new innovative way to actually get started pretty quickly. So code live, yeah, that's our workspace. We created the workspace, and here I already have a manifest file for you in the project repo. So if you look into the manifest.yaml, I think it should be in the root. Let's see, it's either in the or basically it's in the apps folder. So go to the apps folder, and the first app is Slack starter app, and there we have the manifest YAML. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to copy this.
Yes, copy this, and I'll tell you more about what is this manifest.yaml does. So this is all the configurations that we do in that Slack API or Slack app is available to you as a configuration file, so that you can quickly replicate and create these apps. So you don't have to manually do it every time. So as you can see, there are features, there are shortcuts that is required for my app. The OAuth scopes, that's very important. Like one of the aspects of this whole thing is like, okay, what permissions are you giving to your application, your Slack application on your behalf? So that authorization is via the scopes. So you can restrict, to whatever functionality you want, right? You definitely don't want your bots to be doing more than what it's supposed to do, right? So you restrict them using OAuth scopes. You can add some scopes. So I have like 3 scopes. That is, it can write to a public channel, it can write to a private channel using chat.write. It also can execute the commands, the shortcuts and / commands. So it has these commands. And then it has some more things, like, for example, features. Like, your Slack app can have specific features, like a bot user, right, or a shortcut. We'll discuss more about what is shortcut as we showcase, right? So your app name, as you said, the configurations of the app, and then settings that are required. Like, for example, for local development, we'll have to enable this the socket mode. We'll do that later. But I think the interactivity, like, for example, where should the Slack app listen to, right? So all of these is there in this file. So we can proceed next. So let's do next. Yeah, so just verify that these are our features and settings, and then say create. So now what happens, Kevin, is it gives you certain things. So if you actually so if you expand that add features and functionality bucket there at the top, so you see it has all the things that we just defined, and you can see them now on the UI. That's awesome. Now let's install this app in Workspace, because once we do that, it'll give us something called as bot token. We'll need that. I'll show you when we need that. So let's install that in the Workspace. So now, as you can see, it has environment variables like signing secret and I think it's client secret, signing secret, the verification token. I'll tell you what are the things that will be required, right? An app token that's mostly used for like local app development, or if you're building a Slack app for multiple workspaces. And then, obviously you can configure your display information like, your icons, color and branding for your app, all of those good stuff. So now, Kevin, I think we have got the app.
Yep, we've installed it.
We've created it, pretty simple just from the file. Now we can go ahead and actually run our script so that we can start setting up a Scratch org and the Heroku environment. Now, before you do that, we want to run an npm install in the. So this one npm install. You did it on the root directory, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so we need it in the root directory for Salesforce project and other things. For Slack project, we will cd into that apps/Slack starter app and then run that, and also into the scripts folder. So everything is Node.js based, so everything requires kind of an npm install, basically.
So npm install here.
Yeah, npm install, and then once this is done, you can cd dot back to the root folder.
Just gonna open another terminal here and cd into scripts.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, scripts, yes, and do an npm install. Yeah, great. So this is gonna fetch all the node dependencies that are required for our application, right? So this is gonna give us all the node dependencies that our script requires to run. Okay, so now so everything is done, right? So let's actually go to the script folder. So here we are, right? So let's say node and node deploy.js. So what this does is it kicks off the deploy script, basically, and that's how you run a node script. So it's going to ask for the Heroku app name. Should be free to choose any app name that you like. Yeah, perfect. There you go.
At least it's interactive, so it'll tell me what's going on. I have to use
yeah.
Okay.
Slack bot token. Okay, so this one, let's go back to our Slack app and actually go to the Oauth Permissioning section. It's called
Oauth and permissions.
Oauth and permissions. Yes.
Okay.
So we click on that, and then that's the bot token. Yeah, you just copy that and just paste it in the terminal.
All right, that's a paste.
There you go. Yeah, and then signing secret.
Is that on
that's
basic
in the
information?
basic information. Yeah, basic information. And you see, we are not printing any of these variables in the terminal, because that's also a security vulnerability, frankly. If you print something and if you show something, right? So yeah, we just password protecting it, everything. So now we can.
And I'll go through and reset all of these tokens and such after this.
Yeah.
So we do want authorization flow. We can use username or password or JWT bearer.
Yeah. So so username and password is something that I wouldn't recommend for production application, just because it's so sensitive information. And once you have username and password, you can literally someone can hack into your Salesforce environment once they get access to it. With JWT, the thing is, you get a private key and it's more difficult to hack, actually. So what happens is you get a private key, and first of all, your private key is not like password. It's just not like one line. You'll see the private key now in your environment variable. It will be a big chunk of string of maybe more than 200 characters, almost like a file. So it becomes really simple. And even with that, JWT has so much of protection built into it, like the timestamp and the other things that are there, that it's almost impossible to really hack it through.
Okay.
Anyways, both the use cases, you should take you should take all the precautions that you can to make sure that you do not never actually put your username or password or private keys into your Git repository. It has to be in your environment variables. Here locally for the local development, we will see it. We have a .env file where we keep, but we have a git ignore file so that file never gets committed to the Git. So let's choose the JWT bearer for now, Kevin. Yeah, that one. Yes. So now it's going to ask you for. It should ask you for your SFDX Dev Hub, and for Salesforce developers, you are already familiar. This is your Dev Hub org from which you create your Scratch org. And your Scratch org alias. Okay, so now the script is going to create the Scratch org. It's going to create the Scratch org for us. Hopefully the Scratch org creation doesn't take a lot of time today.
Look at that.
There you go. Okay, so that did it. Now, if you look at this, what we are doing is we are also creating a connected app. A connected app is something that is required to establish that JWT connection between Salesforce and any other environment. Like in this case, it's Heroku. And we need this Heroku application also set up. So what it's doing is it's actually creating that Heroku instance for us called Ready to Fly Code Live. And it is actually deploying the code base that's there in this Slack Starter Kit app. The code base is pretty minimal at this point. What it does is it has a shortcut command, and we'll show you. And that shortcut command actually logs you into your Salesforce environment and just shows your identity. That's all it does, using the JSForce Node.js library. So that's pretty much what it does. It's a lot of stuff, as you can see, and it did successfully all of this.
I just want to pause right there because this command took 4 minutes 36 seconds to run, and at the end of it, it has done all this work for you. And I was trying to explain this to my team. I ran this script the other day for the first time, and it is easily, hands down, the fastest time for me to get an entire integration set up that I've ever done. This is utterly fantastic, and Mo, you should be super proud of this. So we've got our Heroku app. Now, there's some other things that it's done here, and I want to draw your attention to. It's also gone through and created all of the, it's gotten the connected app metadata, pushed that out, and taken and put the OAuth information already in Heroku for you. So you don't have to worry about logging in and copying and pasting or doing any of that work. We are actually good to go at this point, right?
Yes, we are really good to go at this point, except one piece of information that we will need to do.
Okay.
So why don't we actually open up the Scratch org and show that the connected app is actually deployed, and then also maybe open up the Heroku dashboard and show that the Heroku app was deployed successfully and it has all the environment variables there.
Okay. So here's our Scratch org, and I'm going to go to
Scratch
apps.
org, and let's go to apps.
There we go. I'm going to go to app manager.
Manager, perfect.
I'm going to make
then
this
you should
bigger.
see a connected app called
Connected
app for Slack. Yeah.
And if we go view this.
Yes. And you see there's there's already a consumer key. There are scopes that have been set. There's a callback URL. There's that digital signature that we required, or the certificate that we required.
Yeah, look at that.
So all of this, and this is again, this is a sample certificate that we just generated. If you're using a production, like if you are putting this in production, I would say change it. Use an OpenSSL program and change the certificate based on your IT policies. And now let's actually go back to Heroku and see the environment variables that got set up there.
Let's see if I'm still logged into the Heroku web interface. I am not.
Okay.
Let me.
Okay. Hopefully. There you go.
And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this window off to a different thing so that I can type in my two-factor here off screen. Give me just a second to pull that up. Okay, and drag this back over here. And we called this
ready to fly. What was that? Ready to
fly code live. All right, there's our app.
And if you go to settings, right, and you see all of the things, if you go to settings and go to real config, where you see all of this thing is set up for you. We have client ID, the login URLs, username of your user, the bot tokens, and the secrets. Everything is actually set up.
This is
so one thing
amazing.
Yeah, this is magical to start with. But let's so there's one more thing that we need to set up, Kevin, and then we should be good to actually show that the shortcut is just working fine, which is the Heroku domain. Now, what happens is when you execute like a / command, or let's say, when you are typing a message, or let's say when you're executing a / command, or you're opening the app, all those events are notified to an endpoint from the Slack. Yep. And that endpoint needs to be there in the Slack app to tell, okay, this is the endpoint to actually hit, right? So that's why what we need to do, and we can actually basically verify that. So you just have to copy. So there is a way to edit the app manifest. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was looking for. Like,
so this is in that manifest.
Yeah, in the manifest. And if you look at I think it's called the request URL. Yeah, the request URL, right? So in the request URL, there is this just the Heroku. Yeah, it says Heroku's -app. That's where we need to go back and replace with the actual Heroku domain, which I think is just the app name. I think it's called Ready to Fly.
Okay, let me copy, paste that here. Oh, got to find the right tab.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, we'll do. Okay.
Okay, there you go. That's it. We save it. Okay, so now we are all ready. We are all ready to see this app actually working. So let's actually go back to our Slack environment, and let's actually first let's add the app. I think we added the app, right?
Ready to Fly app right
already there. There you go. So okay, so let's actually go. Yeah, we can execute here. So if you actually click on that, so this app cannot send messages.
Sending messages to this app. I can't send a message to Ready to Fly, but I can use the shortcut.
Okay. You should be able to, yeah. I mean, that is a feature we can enable it, but click on Who Am I. There you go. See, it's actually working. Like the Who Am I app is actually working.
And this came back with that ends in EUFS. And if we were to go back over to our thing here and look at our username, you can see that. Get to my username here. EUFS is the way it ends. So this is tied to that org, and it already was able to tell us, hey, we're part of, we just connected there, and you can close that. I think that's super cool. Now, as we build this, we're going to be building it all month long. I want to encourage you all to join us and join us in the Slack org as well. So we've created this Slack workspace, and we're going to post the link to join us in the Slack workspace in the chat. So if you're there, you can just click on that and you'll be able to join us and give us a hard time, try out the commands we're using, etc.
Yeah,
it'll be a blast.
Exactly. Awesome. Okay, so so I can see we have the app really working up and running, right? We can do some modifications just to make sure that it's all there. Let's show how to like make a code change and then actually see that live here, deployed to Heroku as well. So why don't we go and look at the code file? So all of our app, Kevin, will be there in the Slack Salesforce Starter app. That's our app basically. That's our Node.js app. And you can see it has a package.json in it, in the root of that folder. And the package.json, if you actually go and look at the dependencies for that, you will see that it has dependencies for Slack Bolt, which is the framework that we are using to build the Slack app. And there's excellent documentation on Slackbolt, and we'll use that all along as we build this app. And the JS Force, I think that's another important library, the JS Force. That's the library that we are using. Again, it's an open source Node.js library to connect to Salesforce and access all the Salesforce APIs.
Okay.
It allows you to securely connect. And you'll be surprised. The JS Force does not provide JWT-based authentication. So I had to use something like another library called SFJWT token, which there are many libraries actually, but this is the one that really caught my attention because all of these are open source, by the way. Like, you can actually go and Google and search for them and read about it in their docs, read the code. The SFJWT token was really simplistic. It's just like 3 lines of code that I had to write to make this work.
I like it.
So I was pretty much impressed with this library. So just to show you how this actually entire app is tied up, right? If you actually go to app.js, that's where everything starts. So this is like where everything starts. So as you can see at the top, we require Slackbolt. I'll talk about what this listeners are. Listeners are something that I created because I didn't want this file to be too long and have all the Slack listeners here. Instead, I wanted to delineate that to a specific file. But really, what the whole Bolt makes it really easy. So as you can see, what we do here is we initialize the app. Like, we say new app. That's how we initialize. That takes the parameter of all the tokens that are required. Like, so config.slack, so there should be a configuration folder, and that has a config.js file. So this file is where we find all the secrets. Like, we say, okay, Slack.
And we're pulling them from the Heroku environment. That's
correct. When the Heroku is running, it will pull from the Heroku environment variables. But I'll also show you, one of my aim when I was building this whole framework was to also give a local development experience, because every time we don't want to push to Heroku, it takes some time to push to Heroku, as you said, maybe a minute, right? But if we don't want to, like, every time pushing to Heroku to test and debug our code, we want to be able to quickly make changes, see that changes, listen locally in our node server, because there's a node server that is running. So that's why what I did is, if you actually go back to that app.js, or I don't know, maybe I have both of them open. There you go. So on the app.js file, there is this thing called, or maybe it's in the config.js itself. The config.js, the second line, right? Yes. So you see, what we do is we use a library called .env. So what this library does is it actually helps you. So what happens is, if you have a .env file, yes, exactly that file, and if you populate all the variables just like as it is, as equivalent to what we have in the Heroku environment variables, then if you're locally running, it actually reads from that .env file.
So that's
instead
cool.
of having, So here I store all the variables that are required to make it work locally as well. So that's why, when we run that Node app, we really want to be still running locally, instead of like having to go back to the server.
I like it.
.env is So and there are few changes that we'll have to make it locally work. I have some ideas. I was looking into the Slack docs yesterday, and we'll try. But for now, let's make one small change in our Slack command, like the Slack shortcut command, and see, or basically understand, and see if it's actually working. Yeah. So all the shortcuts, right? What I've done is I've created a folder called listeners, okay? And that's what we register or pass that app function directly to that. And in that, the whoami is the shortcut command, right? That we just executed. And actually, this is the code that is running behind that. What is that? whoami.js? Yeah, so this code. And what this code does is it basically invokes that connection function, or basically it has so if you go to a directory called Salesforce lib, and there is a JavaScript file called connect.js. Yeah. So that file is where I've created a service where all the magic of logging or authentication is happening. So, so this is a service. So all that you need to do is just like your Salesforce Apex class. I'm just a fan of writing object-oriented more.
Yeah.
Even inside JavaScript, I love to write classes like this. So you see what I did is I created a class. It has a constructor which takes all the configurations like username and the JWT private key and the consumer key. And based on, if it's a JWT flow, we just invoke the JSForce connection object and call that get token function, which is the function from that JWT node module that we are using. Again, it takes client ID, username, and login URL and the private key. And then we just get the access token in the instance URL, and we initialize a JSForce connection object. And this is the object that we might have to modify, or let's say this is fine for now, right? Because server to server. Now, when we actually start building, and that we will get into it in a bit here, when we start building, I should be able to say, okay, new Salesforce connection object, and then, just pass in a specific access token, and that should be able to connect. So we might have to modify that, or maybe create another constructor,
okay,
so that it just takes the access token and creates a new connection. So in the user-to-user flow, we will do the same thing. So that's all it does. So one very important aspect there is the line number 9. So any Slack function, right, has to acknowledge within 3 seconds. That's a requirement from Slack. You have to acknowledge back with 3 seconds with that sign-in secret, which is another environment variable that's already there. You remember when we were setting up, we set it up as a bot token, also as signing secret. So the Bolt makes it really easy so that we don't have to worry about creating requests, etc., responding. So Bolt makes it easy by just giving us that acknowledge function. So all that we do is we just call that acknowledge function asynchronously and await on it, and that's about it. And that takes care of it. So the next step is we can go ahead.
I'm just going to annotate this a little bit. This next line is boilerplate code to inform the Slack workspace. I can spell. That the command was received and is being processed.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's literally like a ping response. Hey, I got it.
It's a ping response with a verification token. Like you have to say that, okay, this is the exact app, right? And we have the right signing secrets here. So it verifies that. It's also security, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could get my daughters to acknowledge what I say within 3 seconds. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our ACK here, and then we're going to connect.
Yeah, connect is basically to create that connection object. Now, once we have that connection object there, right, the connection object can do a lot of things. Like try to do connection dot. It'll show you all the just do a connection dot. You see you have access to access token, invoke an apex, write bulk API, use describe call, insert, log in, log out, metadata. There's a whole bunch of things. You can really do whatever you want with Salesforce at this point, really, based on your session, basically.
I can call Apex. I didn't know I could do that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's the connection object. Now the next thing that we are doing here is actually calling that module that opens up right on the shortcut. So this is a shortcut listener. So you can see that there is every shortcut has a trigger ID. So this piece of code I got it from the Bolt SDK documentation, and it's one of the documentation to have handy. They show you how to respond to a slash command, how to open up a modal, how to respond to a shortcut, how to listen for any events on app homepage, all of the events, how to respond to them, and how to like use their client library to access various APIs. So there's a bunch of things that you can do. So that function, yeah. So what I'm doing is basically copied that base of code, but in the view, right? In the view, I'm calling this who am I function again. It's a function on line number, yeah. So who am I is basically a function. It's at the top. So if you double click that, it will take you to that who am I. Yeah. So, okay.
Double click. There we go.
Yeah, double click. There you go.
Mine is command clicked.
Yeah. So that shows. So this is a simple function again that I created. As you can see, sort of arrow functions. I love writing functions like this. No function keyword. Just using brackets and then just using the arrow syntax. Here, what we are doing, Kevin, is so I pass in the instant URL and the username from the connection object, right? And here I'm using something very interesting, and I wish we had something like this in the Apex version of sort of Apex version of SDK, or let's say the Fire will fix it. But I'm using a very common open source library called Slack Block Builder. Okay, the Slack Block Builder npm provides an elegant way to create blocks. And now you will ask me, what is blocks, right? Blocks in Slack is a way of writing your UI using a JSON format, and which is very interesting because generally you write your UI in HTML and CSS. That's what we do in LWC and other frameworks like React. We write HTML. What Slack, what's interesting about Slack is you just write a JSON file, and that creates your UI widgets. So if you have a Google, I would go and show everyone like Slack block builder. That's what or block UI or something like that will definitely block it or something like that. And yeah, the block kit. Yes. So open the third one, the block kit builder. The block basics, the third one. Changing
this
layout.
makes it so much faster to create a UI. Yes,
this is the one. Yeah, this is the one that I was talking about. So here, right, as you can drag and drop, and it creates this JSON payload on the something like that. If you drop it changes or basically you get a JSON file on your right, and that JSON creates your UI for it, like the date picker, right? It's just a block of JSON that you create. So really makes it really easy. Yeah. So that's the block of JSON code, right? Your payload, and that becomes your UI. But it is elegant to create, but not good, or not that elegant if you paste your JSON just like as it is in the, in the code, right? In the JavaScript code, you don't want to be just pasting the block of JSON, and that's why, it's not elegant that way. So what this library does, like Slack Block Builder, and it's an open source library. Again, somebody has written and very popular in Slack community. This provides you a way to use some sort of a builder pattern where you can say, okay, I want to create a block, and then I can say, okay, I want to create a section. The section will have the text, and then you finally build to a JSON object, and then you can use that and just put that JSON directly there instead of having to maintain that whole JSON file.
And this is starting off with the builder pattern, like you said. Now, if you're not familiar with the builder pattern, it's usually something along the lines of a constructor call.
Yep.
And then you'll see this sort of period, some method call, and then another method call, like that. And so that kind of looks weird until you get used to it, when you realize what's happening is this constructor call is going to give you an object, in this case a modal, and then we're going to call the blocks method, and we're going to define number of sections in here, and then we'll return that all as a build to JSON. So just a little bit of background on what that pattern you'll see is. Now, if I want to modify this, I want to say like Salesforce authentication.
And remember, Kevin, the title has a hard limit on number of text it can have because it has to be within the modal.
Yeah.
So if you have a lot of text, it will break the code and it'll throw an ugly error. That's fine. We'll see if it does with auth credentials. It should be fine. I think it's 100 characters or something.
So I'm going to file a bug on your setup and your quick start script here, because I noticed that if we call ready to fly who am I as a shortcut, you'll see that we get Salesforce instance undefined. And it looks like we've got a bug. Oh, let me go to the right window.
Oh, let's fix that.
Yeah, let's fix it.
Fix that.
Because we're passing it in here, instance URL, and who am I?
Let's see where the instance URL is coming from.
It's coming from the
config config.instance URL. So the config is coming from the config file, right? And let's look at the config file.
We don't have an instance
file
URL.
doesn't have them. Yeah, there you go. That's the bug. So let's add one.
Well, do we want to do that,
And
or
I'm
do we want to get
pretty
it from the connection? Can we get it? Constant instance.
Oh yeah.
URL is equal to con dot. We've got base URL.
Base URL will not work. Base URL will not, but there should be an instance URL as well.
Instance URL.
There you go.
Look at that.
That's
All
what I
right.
was saying.
So instead of doing that, we'll just pass this in.
Yeah, actually, we will need the instance URL in the environment variable as well, and we have it there because for different things. Like when we go for user-to-user auth, right, we will need that to be persisted when we actually log into Salesforce, even when the process. But I think for now it should be fine. Okay, so we did our code change, right? Now we should be able to actually push this change to Heroku and do a test.
I'm just committing it here so we can push it.
Okay. So did it commit to? Yeah, git push Heroku main should work. Make sure you have access to the repository. Heroku doesn't appear. What does it say? Heroku. Okay.
I have to be outside the scripts directory.
You don't have to be in the script directory. You have to be in the app directory. Scripts directory is only for running the deploy scripts. So you have to be in the apps directory, and then you have to be within the, we have to be within that starter app directory. Did you? Okay.
Make this bigger.
Oh, okay. I know why this could be happening. So let's do this. Why don't you do a git remote -v to see where we are, or what is our remote like? Do we even have Heroku remote set?
I'm just going to show how this is done. So I'm going to go into the git directory, and I'm going to cat the config file. We've got a remote origin.
Okay, and is it Heroku?
And we do not have we don't have a Heroku remote.
Okay. And it's very easy to set Heroku remote, and this is one of the problems that I often had when learning Heroku was you can do this way, Kevin, but I'll show you there should be a really easy way.
Okay.
I think I already have that as an instruction. Let me see if I have that as in the instruction or not. If not,
we'll go look.
It's a really simple way. I think it's called, the command is called git remote. Oh, okay, yeah, git Heroku git remote, Heroku git, and then double, or basically what's this, colon remote, -a. Look at that, it already, and the app name, I think it's ready to fly or whatever your app name. Ready to fly, code live, So now what it does is it automatically sets it. Exactly. So this should, now you should see that you have another origin called Heroku.
Yep.
Yeah.
Remote. There we go.
See?
And Heroku is now going to rebuild.
Heroku will deploy this will deploy the stuff. But see, this is the stuff that we don't want to be happening. Like this is why I'm like, we need local development, because we don't want to be waiting for the build to get succeeded. And
So how do we let's build that local development.
Yeah, let's test this out first, and then we'll build the local development workflow.
No, do I have to do anything inside Heroku?
No.
Hey, look at this.
You don't.
Hi. I want to say
hi.
Yeah, thank you. I know I can put it on my mobile phone. All right, so we've got our ready to fly. Do we have to do anything in order to get this to refresh? All right,
No.
So we'll just run who am I?
Yeah. Is it building, or it was built successfully?
It built successfully, but it looks like we might have an issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Heroku logs.
Logs.
Tail.
Yeah, logs. Exactly. We'll tail the log. What's the issue?
Invalid arguments.
Okay, let's see where the origin.
Oh, is this
web class?
my thing was too long? My title?
Yeah, it could be. API
Less than
error,
25 characters. All right, let me do this.
Yeah, there you go. It says right, must be less than 25 characters. Yeah.
We'll make it definitely shorter than 25. And now we have to deploy this again.
Yep.
And we have to commit.
Yep.
And give it a meaningful name.
Yeah. Now we should be able to use that
And
git push.
I'm already feeling the pain of not having local development here. I'm going to be honest with you.
Me too. Yeah, I'm already
I'd sit here
feeling
and
it,
twiddle
yeah.
my thumbs, or
Yeah, it does take some time, right? So let's fix that. It should be pretty simple.
It's a great
to fix.
opportunity
And,
to read the latest edition of the release notes.
Are the release notes out?
Well, I mean, there are 700 pages. Did you read all of the last ones? No, exactly.
No.
All right, now it's deployed there. Let's try this again.
Okay.
So I'm going to go up here, ready to fly. Who am I? Look at that.
Look at that.
There's our URL. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. Can you click on that URL and will it take you directly to Salesforce?
It does.
It will, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And
It's awesome and scary as well, because see, one of the things that we have here is like authenticated with like power user, right? And that's why we want to really build user auth flow, because a lot of power, right?
I think
Let's say somebody
it's not authenticated. If I open it
it's not authenticated.
if I open
Okay.
it in an incognito window,
authentication. Okay.
it's relying on the fact that I'm already logged in here.
Got it. Okay, that makes me less nervous. Okay. I'm always nervous about the data, so.
All right, so let's do this local development thing. We've got 12 minutes left, and unfortunately, I'm just going to give a quick heads up. Next week's episode, it'll be released next Thursday, but we will be in New York City for the Dreamforce TU, and so this will be pre-recorded, and there won't be any chat for next week. But we've got some great links in there today. We'll put those links in the description as well for our video. And if you want to join us on the Slack channel, by all means, you can come heckle us there. You can give us a hard time. And then we will also we'll continue working on this, and you'll see it the episode next week. All right, so let's figure out this local development stuff.
Yeah, so for local development, Kevin, one of the best things that I found in Slack is Slack has something called a socket mode. Okay, so what that socket mode does is it opens up WebSocket connection, and looks like the Bolt already has infrastructure built into that Node SDK, that is the Bolt SDK that we are using, to turn your Node.js app into a WebSocket listener for the Slack app. So that makes it really easy. I mean, it shouldn't be that complex. But what is complex for us was to actually get all these environment variables. Now, there's one more little thing apart from turning that socket mode on.
Okay.
Is also it requires an app token when you're running in a local mode.
Okay.
That's how it works. It requires an app token as well, not just the bot token and the signing secret. It'll have, so your app will need to have that app token. So there are a couple of things that we'll need to do to make sure that we are turning on the local development. So the first thing is, let's actually go back to the, so let's turn the socket mode on.
Okay.
So to do that, right, if you go to the config.js file, I already have 2 lines commented there.
Oh, look at that.
Which when I was building, I had this in mind that, hey, sometime I will have to, enable this for my local development. So, so this one we need to enable. That is called socket mode. Oops, there's a comma missing after line 18. Yes, there you go.
Fix that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So Slack app token, yeah. So that's something that we will need to actually put it in our .env file. So actually go to our .env file, and yeah, maybe after line number 5, we say enter. And so this is one of the things, like the private key there, if you see, it's a long one string. If it doesn't, like the .env Node.js library, for some reason, if you put it as a multi-line, it never works, So I had to kind of write my own a bit of script to make sure that everything just concatenates into one single line, just because the env was okay. So here, Kevin, so once we have that socket mode on, we have to go here and say the socket mode on as well, like edit this and say there is a socket. I think it's already there. We just have to make that
socket
enabled.
mode enabled. True.
Yeah, true.
I love that I can just edit this here and, well.
Oh, wait. It's throwing an error somewhere at the bottom, line number 23. Okay, can we hover over that a bit?
It's because there's a comma missing.
No. Let's hover over it, I guess. Interactive requires no request. Oh, so here's the thing, Kevin. So what happens is the moment you put the socket mode enabled, you don't, you will have to basically get rid of that interactivity altogether. That's how it works. It's just unfortunate. Maybe we'll have to maintain like 2 different YAML files, etc. But that's how it works. Basically, there's no interactivity then, So, yeah.
Give me an example of what they mean by interactivity.
Okay, that's a great question. So what is interactivity is, so for example, when the shortcut gets executed, right, where it should notify the request URL, that's interactivity for them. The moment you interact with that Slack app, where does all those events needs to go through? And that's why they have 2 different things, like enable that interactivity for the app. And the second is provide a request URL where that request will go to. And in our case, it was Heroku. But when the socket mode is on, for some reason, the YAML file is like, you have the socket mode on, so we know that, it's a web socket. You don't need request URL anymore. It's a web socket. So they know that it has to be a specific WebSocket URL. That's it.
Okay.
So I don't know whether it's a security feature or, I would personally would have loved to have it there, and just once the socket mode is enabled, it just overrides everything else. But I guess that's the limitation of the system.
So let me just sum up and make sure I'm on the same page. In order to do local development, we have to turn off access to our Heroku running middleware. And then when we want to go to production, we have to go in and turn interactivity back on and disable the WebSocket mode.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love to have like 2 different files, manifest files, and maybe 2 different apps as well. And now that with manifest you can create them, right? Yeah, exactly. I would love to, we will definitely need that, but only for production purposes. Like we'll need that interactivity for production purposes, basically. Comments in YAML.
No, seriously, we can't do comments in YAML? There it goes.
You can.
There we go.
You can. Yeah, you can.
All right, there we go. So I'm going to save
YAML
this.
is awesome. Yeah. Well, it took me some time to understand YAML. You won't believe.
I know I would.
I never. It took me some time to understand YAML. I was really familiar with JSON, but for YAML, it really took me some time to completely understand how YAML works. That might be another topic to discuss completely, on another call. Like
YAML and I are frenemies.
Okay.
Okay. So I've saved this. And now we can
Perfect.
go back.
Now we need the app token as well. Let's generate one and provide in the environment variable.
How do we get that?
So we get that by go to that install app. I think our OAuth and permissions. I guess it's OAuth and permissions.
That's the bot token.
Yeah, it's OAuth and permission sections. I'm sorry. So this one. Yeah, there you go. So here, right, if you scroll down, does it have an app token somewhere? Ability to generate app token, redirect URLs. No. Okay, let's see where it is. Let me find it out.
Let me see if it's in
It
basic.
is one of the settings. It's one of the settings to generate an app token.
App icon.
Maybe it's in the
tabs. App credentials. App
there you
level
go.
tokens.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Okay, let's generate one. So let's put a token name. Now this could be anything. It could be anything. Add scopes. Yeah, click on that, and say connections dot right. Right. Yeah, the first one should be fine. Yeah, generate. I think that should be fine.
Oh, we don't need right.private.
We don't need authorizations read.
Okay.
We don't need. There are only two scopes for this thing. App level token, and then we say generate. That's it.
Generate?
Sorry, the generate button.
So we only have one.
Generate.
You said there were two. We have connections right. What's the other one?
The other one is the authorization read, and this is for like an ISV use case basically.
Okay.
You don't need to worry about it. So now we have the app token, right? So let's actually go back and paste it there. There you go. There you go. So now, yeah, we have everything to run this app locally, so all I will do is make sure you're in the folder, you're in the right folder, I guess, and then apps folder, exactly, and then just say node app.js, and that should kick everything off. There you go. I should say Bolt app is running. Okay.
All right,
now
that was easy.
That was easy. Yeah. Now the fun starts is how do you debug? How do you like let's say we just created a breakpoint. Let's put a breakpoint, Kevin, somewhere in our code so that when we interact, we want our code to go and stop at that.
Maybe in the who am I?
Who am I? Maybe in the constant instance URL. There you go. Yeah. Let's put a breakpoint there.
Okay.
And so we are in the VS Code. So do a Command Shift P.
Command Shift P.
And then here, Kevin, there is something called a toggle. Say toggle. Yeah, toggle debug. I think it's called toggle debug or something.
I have debug toggle, auto attach.
Debug toggle. Let's see. So I can also do here, right? Command Shift P. So debug. It's called toggle breakpoint. Debug toggle breakpoint. No, 1 sec. Let's look at the docs. I'm gonna look at the VS.
I added the breakpoint. I've got the dot there. What are we trying to do? Attach to the running process?
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is just toggle the debug mode on so that the JavaScript, natural JavaScript debugger or the native JavaScript debugger that comes along with the VS Code triggers on, basically.
Start debugging.
Let's see. Yeah, maybe that. Let me see here. I'm gonna go back to the VS Code docs here for a bit.
Okay.
Toggle JavaScript debugger VS Code.
Before we do any of that, I'm just gonna check and see if it works still.
Yeah.
Dude,
Okay.
that's awesome.
What
was that? You broke up there a little
Can't
bit.
believe. Sorry, I was like, is it working really in local mode?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So the reason why I want to do this is again because so that we can debug it very easily, right, line by line if we have to. So let's see.
Is it one of
So
these
start
over here?
debugging node renders. Let's see. There should be something to debug it. I think there was a. I mean, there are multiple ways to debug a Node.js within the VS Code, but the simplest one that I do is use the built-in debugger, basically. That. Okay.
Here, let's do this. I'm going to close this down here, and I'll show you how I do it. I have the Node.js here, and I'm going to click on Node.js.
Okay, perfect.
And start that. No.
Okay.
No. That
no, but
it switched over to the.
you...
It switched over to the Apex language runtime. I want to do Node.js, and I want to do current file.
Okay, and when you execute, is it stopping at that debugger?
Yes.
I mean, when you...
well...
There you go. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
There we go. See, we have everything running locally as well.
We can switch to that one. And, you must use app token when using socket mode. Oh, it's not reading the environment.
Yeah.
When the debug pulled this up, it didn't run. It didn't.
See, yeah. So when that runs, right? When that runs, I think we will have to provide a file or somewhere the environment. It doesn't. Yeah, as you said, it doesn't. It's not reading the environment variables from the from that .env file. And I think if we there is a setting for sure. I know if you kick off the JavaScript. Let's see.
Okay, let's me pause here. So everyone, I want to thank you for tuning in. We've hit time. We're going to record next week's episode here so that you can join us again. And we're going to start off from having local development mode with debugging working. And we'll bring you up to speed starting there. So again, today we spun up a brand new project after cloning the repo. We connected it to our Heroku org. We connected it to our Salesforce org. We created a Slack instance and a Slack app. We got there and we can authenticate to Salesforce all pretty much seamlessly and automatically. And we started the process of getting that local debugging going. So we've had a great session today. Thank you all for tuning in. You can still all be here in the Slack org, and you can join us in the Slack org. The link's there in the chat, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you much.